I like to give my opinion on a wide range of topics, of subjects and of issues, but I do try and steer clear of becoming one of those the world's gone mad kind of people. I think sometimes just saying, oh, everything's gone crazy and we've all lost the plot and the country's not what it used to be, really isn't very helpful. It's not beneficial to anyone, and it's quite a lazy attitude to take towards a lot of mainstream issues. However, sometimes something comes along and I feel myself leaping headfirst straight back into the world's gone mad category. Howling mad. Fury as school allows pupils suffering from species dysmorphia to identify as a wolf. Now, that sounds like a headline straight out of some sort of dystopian novel. And it's also something that we would not have expected to read, say, even 10 years ago. I think, however, and this is something I'll come back to later in the video, the key word in this headline is allows. And we'll talk about that a bit later on. However, just to give a bit of clarification, let's see what the ever-reliable Daily Mail has to say about this particular story. A British schoolchild has been officially allowed to identify as a wolf, the Mail can reveal. The secondary school pupil is said to suffer from species dysmorphia, which is when someone claims their body belongs to a different species. Teachers are said to be supporting the youngster. Now, the word dysmorphia is something we have become far more familiar with. Dysmorphia is when your mentality doesn't align with your physical appearance, or at least that's my layman's interpretation of it. Gender dysmorphia is when you believe you are born into the wrong body, and this covers obviously trans people. Species dysmorphia, which as we'll go on to discover is not a scientifically recognised condition, is in this instance claimed to be where someone believes they are born into the body of the wrong species. Now, we would expect that this is actually incredibly rare. This is someone who is either mentally unwell in whatever capacity that might be, or merely a child who is seeking attention by laying claim to something such as identifying as a wolf. However, the article goes on to say that growing numbers of school children are said to be taking on the personalities of creatures including foxes, dragons, birds, snakes, sharks, and even dinosaurs, as if somehow dinosaurs is even more ludicrous than the rest. However, and this is what I referred to earlier, clinical neuropsychologist Dr. Tommy McKay insisted last night there is no such condition in science as species dysmorphia. It's not surprising we are seeing this in an age where many people want to identify something other than they are. I think that's an incredibly important analysis by basically a professional there. An increasing number of people, and particularly young people, are looking to identify as something they are not. I think this whole idea of identifying as a wolf or an attack helicopter or a bunch of sausages is a slightly ludicrous take on what is a much more significant mental health pandemic amongst younger people. Sorry to interrupt the video, only 5% of the people who watch these videos regularly are actually subscribed. If you don't mind just hitting that subscribe button, it's completely free, there's no obligation, you can unsubscribe at any time, and there would be no hard feelings from me. There's also a link in the description below if you fancy buying me a pint. It says buy me a coffee, but a pint's much better, isn't it? Particularly on a warm day like today. Anyway, back to the video. The pressures on younger people, particularly from social media, to stand out from a crowd are incredibly strong. And this idea of identifying as something other than yourself comes from a lack of satisfaction in the way that you present yourself to the outside world. If you feel that you don't measure up to the models on Instagram or to even your peers on other social media platforms, it might be that you then choose to adopt a personality or a character that is so outside of the box, shall we say, that it garners attention that you never would have got as yourself. It's concerning, I believe, that there's so many young people out there who want to distance themselves from their true being. Be that something as simple as their true wealth level, be that as simple as their own personality, by using filters, distance themselves from their own aesthetics, but in extreme cases, distancing themselves from their own species. I'd like, in some respect, to park the idea of gender dysmorphia, because this is a proven scientific issue. I'm not suggesting for 1 second that it's not played upon by certain people who like to seek and garner attention. However, that would be doing a massive disservice to those people who have genuine gender dysmorphia and struggle to deal with that. And we've seen how that can have such a psychological impact in the massive bias in the suicide statistics when we look at the LGBT community. When I looked at the headline of this article, I referred to the word allow. I also read at the start of the article the word support. So it appears that this child, in whatever capacity they are suffering from some sort of either societal pressure or mental health disorder, is basically being appeased by the people who should be effectively telling them to snap out of it. Or if there is genuine underlying mental health issues, working to identify what those issues are and finding a way to mitigate and rectify them. The article itself, and this is a comment from the aforementioned doctor, simply says, now we have a council which appears to accept at face value that a child identifies as a wolf, rather than being told to snap out of it and get to grips with themselves, which would be a common sense approach, and certainly, if we rewind just a few years, and certainly a decade or so, would be the approach. If a child came into the classroom and said they wanted to be treated or spoken to as a wolf, and they were allowed to respond to the teacher by howling, you would certainly be subject to after-school detention, and your whims and your desire to be addressed as such would certainly not be tolerated by the powers that be. I think one of the biggest issues here is that we are using extreme cases like this, we are using almost comedic headlines like this to bury the fact there is a very obvious intrinsic mental health pandemic amongst young people, which I believe is caused by social media and the societal pressures that instills in them. It's very easy to turn around and point and laugh at someone who says they identify as a wolf or a cat or a dinosaur or whatever. However, the very fact that someone is going to this extent, even if there are no underlying mental health issues other than the desire for attention, we need to look and address the cause that is causing such extreme types of behaviour. The article goes on, and I won't subject you to too much more of it, to talk about furries. Now, furries, from my limited understanding, are people who like to put on outfits that portray them as a animal character of some description, and they tend to get together and do animal things, I presume. Now, my understanding from furryism, if that is indeed the term, is that it was born out of some sort of kink, some sort of fetish. It is a very adult kind of behaviour. But as with everything in our current look at me social media world, adopting a furry persona, or in this case simply identifying as something other than human, has become a way to attract attention to yourself and stand out from the crowd. A crowd that are all going about their own business, trying to stand out and separate themselves from each other, rather than just simply living as themselves and as their own true personality, and using that true personality and that true version of themselves to form important, lasting friendships and relationships. I think the other big concern here, of course, is the amount of attention that is being laid upon these people. They are, of course, attention seekers, and they are attracting the attention, but not only are they attracting the attention from their peers, they are diverting the professional attention away from the people that should be educating them, and when it is a true mental health issue, the people that should be caring for them. Teachers and other professionals are allowing this behaviour. They are supporting this behaviour, and all the time we're doing this and we are bowing to the will of individuals who have decided to invent a persona for themselves. We are detracting from the true purpose of their vocation, which is to help support and to educate the next generation of young people. Thankfully, we don't live in a society where every single young person identifies as something other than themselves, although the numbers are increasing dangerously. This means that the young people who are turning up to be educated, and the people who are turning up to, in theory, do the education, are becoming much, much more misaligned, whilst we spend more time and attention focusing on those who, either through genuine mental health issues or simply through a desire to be recognised, are garnering all the attention from the professionals. Let me know what you think. Leave your comments in the comment section below, and until next time, stay safe and stay sane, everyone.